For this week's Thoughtfully Fit Thursday, we are looking at Olympic level endurance. And I have a guest with me today who is a professional athlete. Maddie Wanamaker is an Olympian. And she has an incredible story. And Maddie, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So Thoughtfully Fit is a model that I created that is a metaphor and designed around principles of being physically fit. You are probably one of the most physically fit people in the world. Not probably, you are one of the most physically fit people in the world. And in the model of Thoughtfully Fit, one of the 6 practices is endurance. And how do you have mental endurance? Clearly, you have to have physical endurance to be able to compete in rowing as you did. I'm wondering if you can just share with us a little bit about your story. I was particularly intrigued that you didn't grow up at 5 years old rowing and competing, that you started competing before freshman level in college, and then you're in the Olympics. And I'm imagining that takes a lot of both physical and mental endurance. So I'd love to hear how you got to there and what endurance looks like for you.
Yeah, I started my athletic career playing soccer when I was super young and running cross country in middle school and high school. And I think having that athletic background and having the background of racing for running and competing in tournaments and stuff for soccer was a really good kind of baseline going into it. It was super fun starting rowing because I think people who row in high school and younger, you have these expectations of when your body is less developed and you're not as strong or big, and you kind of have these preconceived notions of what you can do. So I think it was almost an advantage coming into college and finishing an erg test, say, and be oh, was that good? I don't know. That was definitely fun, and it was cool, and it was definitely challenging to have a new sport, something completely different, a new movement, and kind of being bad at it. You have people who are very good because they've been doing it for years and years, but then you also, us walk-ons, it was a learning curve to get up to speed in the rowing technique, even though I was pretty strong and pretty fit coming in. So I think the mental toughness starts there, and you have to kind of resign yourself to not being the best and to have some failures and take some L's, as the kids say.
Take some L's?
Yeah, losses.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Yeah,
so
that's what's fascinating is that, and I'm wondering, how did you, so you're coming in brand new, you're a walk-on, you've never done this. The what we call self-sabotaging thoughts, the inner trash talk, that, you're not somebody who had been doing this for their whole life, and you're coming in with these women who had been. How did you overcome that? I'm guessing, were there self-sabotaging thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's always, because I didn't go into it being I'm going to do this for 4 years and I'm going to love it and then I'm going to make the Olympics. I feel I came in and I was well, if I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't have to continue. So I think giving myself the grace to be this is new. You're not supposed to be the best at it. Just try your hardest. And I think that even growing up, I feel my parents are always in school, it's well, I got a bad grade on this test. It's well, did you try your hardest? Okay, then that's fine. So I feel I just kind of went into it with a little bit of reckless abandon and just try your best. And if it doesn't work out, there's always tomorrow. And I think that's great about rowing, because you just even if some workout isn't good or a practice isn't good, you can always come back tomorrow and readjust, recalibrate, and kind of get back into it. And I think learning that with a bunch of other women who are new to the sport was really helpful, because we kind of picked each other up and we were we don't know what's going on, but we're going to try hard. So I think that was fun and a good environment to try something new and get acquainted to the sport of rowing.
I mean, I love that. When we look at what's transferable from your experience to others who are watching this and are wanting to try something new or get a promotion or change careers, or try a new hobby, whatever it is, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and I'm going to see. And if it's fun, I'm going to do it. And if it's not, then I'll move on. Your attitude. And it sounds like your parents instilled that in you which is incredible because they were rowers at UW-Madison. And so for them not to have that pressure on you, I would imagine helped you to be able to step into that mindset of having fun and being able to enjoy it if it's good, and if it's not, walk away, as opposed to having to like live up to their expectations.
Yeah, I think it was helpful because it's not, I never felt like pressure, like even going into being a freshman on the rowing team, I never felt like if you're not the best, it's the end of the world. And like my dad like fell off his bike and broke his collarbone, and that was like at the end of his rowing career. And he was like, it's okay. Like I was able to go to college and like do more like academic things and like meet with professors during practice time. So I think knowing his experience and just kind of knowing like, and I think now too, that's helped me a lot. This last couple years, I feel like my first couple years at the training center with the national team, I was so like, this is the end of the world. Like rowing is my life, rowing is everything. And I think having more of a work-life balance coming into the last couple years, and like I was injured for like 6 months of this year. So
I mean, 6 months of the year that is the Olympics, right? I mean, this wasn't like an injury that was years ago. You were injured this last winter leading into the Olympics. So, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was the other thing I wanted to ask you about is how you handled that. Oh, and somebody's calling to ask a question. how you handled that and stayed in the game mentally.
I think because like the pandemic, we were sent home in like March, and it was like training on your own. And I feel like even at the end of last year before the pandemic, I was like, oh, just got to get to the Olympics, I was like, I just need a break. This is a lot. And then when the pandemic happened, I was really happy to come home and spend time with my family. And then it's just like so much like self-motivation. Like it's so easy to be like, oh, it's practice time, got to go to practice when you're with the team. But I think I really struggled kind of being like, okay, now I have to go do this workout that I didn't really want to do on my own time. And like, oh, if I have a cup of coffee here and wait another hour and whatever. So it was really hard to like motivate to do this stuff. And then we got back to being at the training center and like the regional restrictions. We could only row in boats by ourselves. And so it was like single rowing all summer. And I feel like by the end of the summer, I was just so like, why am I doing this again? Like, this isn't fun. Like, what? And so when I got injured, I just like, my shoulder was tight, and we thought maybe tendonitis or like a torn labrum, which is like a common rowing injury. So our coaches and our PT staff was like, oh, just take a couple weeks off and rest. So I was like, oh, a couple weeks, like I can do that. Like, all right, sounds good. I'll bite, no problem. See ya. And then it was like, I tried to go back and row again. And it was like, okay, that didn't feel good. And so it was like this back and forth, like get a cortisone shot. That didn't help. Get this, that didn't help. And I eventually went in for an MRI like before Thanksgiving. And they were like, oh my God, you have this mass on your MRI. Like you probably have a rare form of cancer. And I was like, wow, that's horrible. So I spent like a couple weeks between like having these MRIs and then going to see like a cancer specialist in New York City, where I was like, had to kind of recalibrate of like, wow, like I might have to have surgery. Like in my PT, we just had this conversation. I was kind of like, so like, what do you think about the Olympics? And he's like, let's work on like living first and like being okay and being well. So when I went to the cancer specialist, they're like, you're fine. Like this is a vascular clog. Your blood vessels have just like gone rogue. And they had like impinged they'd been pinned between my like bone and my muscle. And it was like blocking the muscle from working. So I then scheduled this surgery to get it minimized in January. And then February, I was able to go and like be with the team in California. And then I didn't start rowing again until March. But I feel like that whole time, like I was doing my at-home workouts, and I was it was in more of like a bargaining mode. I was like, okay, like if I can go back to the team and I can row with people, like I'm not going to be so like whatever. And it was like a good gratefulness reminder, because it's like, it's not a given that I can row. Like it's not a given that I can be on the team. It's nothing. And I think that helped me a lot during selection, because it's this high pressure thing, you're competing. And I was just like, I could have not been here. Like I could have had my collarbone sawed in half, and I could have like,
I could have had cancer.
Yeah. Like I could be in chemotherapy right now. I could whatever. And I was just like, when it got a lot, I feel like I was able to like come back to like, I'm just happy to be here. Like I'm so thankful that my situation wasn't like life threatening. I'm just happy to like be back with my teammates. I'm happy to be like doing the sport that I love. I'm happy that I'm not in a boat by myself. So even though it was a lot of pressure, and then I had that, not a scapegoat, but I'm like, I shouldn't make the Olympic team. I didn't row for a year. Like,
wow.
Like that's like, if I make it, it's going to be amazing. And if I don't, people are going to be like, well, yeah, you didn't row. It's fine.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think centering myself with gratitude this whole year has been a really helpful thing to like get through some of the really stressful parts of training and racing and stuff.
Which is awesome. And that's maybe the last piece that I wanted to explore with you, is what advice do you have? So you clearly had to overcome a lot of obstacles to achieve your goal, to become an Olympian. You had injuries. You had a pandemic. You had to leave your team and figure out how to train alone, how to motivate yourself. And it sounds like one piece of advice I heard loud and clear was rest, like stillness, unplug. That you didn't ignore the experts and say, I can't take rest. I can't take a few weeks off. I can't create stillness. And I use that because stillness is one of the practices when you want to be thoughtfully fit, is like quieting the mind. It sounds like that was one piece of advice. Are there other things that you can share? How did you stay motivated amidst all these external and internal obstacles?
I use my sports psychologist a lot throughout this process. So I don't want to be like, she's so amazing, she got here on her own. Like I definitely had to ask and like seek the advice of experts. So I think that was really good to have a really good sports psychologist in our corner. And we had like another guy who came and worked with our team, which is really helpful, I think, for team dynamics. Yeah. So that was good. Like having gratitude was great, I think. And especially like talking about like Olympic level endurance, it's like less training, like this workout every time. It's having the stamina for like a month, a week, a year. And I think that looking at the next 3 years of Olympic training, it's pretty daunting to be like, oh my God, I have to do all that training again. But you just kind of look at it and you're like, okay, I did yesterday, I'm going to do today, and then I'm going to do tomorrow. And like, you have like a 3-day, like, did I do yesterday? Yes. Can I do today? Yes. Will I do tomorrow? Yes. And I think that training, like there are peaks and valleys, and it's like not designed for you to be like hitting your PRs and doing amazing all the time. So I think training for more time and like having the grace to be like, it wasn't my best workout. And like a lot of times we have our best or like hardest workouts on Saturday. So like when I first started training, it's like, I had the worst hard workout today. I'm ranked last. Like this is horrible. And it would like ruin my weekend. And then it's not easy to come back on Monday and be like, I feel great about myself. This is awesome. But I think having like letting go of that pressure to like always be at the top of the list, and kind of, it was nice to be like injured and not have to worry about like, where am I in the rankings and what does that mean? And this person beat me on this. And it was just like being injured and being away from the team kind of like let me let that go a little bit and just know that like, you're going to show up, do what you can do it the best you can, and then like go home and do something like holistic. Like I feel like when I was injured, I was like drawing and journaling and trying to like stay away from like doom scrolling on Instagram, because that was also like a huge turmoil time in America this fall. And so I think it was good to like find different activities. And I was like sewing masks and trying my hand at embroidery and just like kind of doing things that, and like I lived with my teammates, which I was super thankful for. And so like talking about my feelings with them, which isn't always like a fun thing to do, but I think having like a team sports psychologist helped us be like, yeah, this is hard sometimes, and everyone really struggles. So I think like finding things that aren't like media, and I love watching Love Island with my roommates, and it's super fun, but at some point you have to be like, okay, let's go do something productive now. So
yeah,
that's been my like coping for the last
I
year.
love that, and all the things that you did to bring in inspiration, creativity, hobbies. Okay, I've got one last question for those of us. Like, since I was a little girl, I wanted to be an Olympian, and I made it to the Junior Olympics. But I would just love to hear what that experience was like, going to the Olympics, going to Tokyo. I mean, layer on top of it a global pandemic where there's no fans and sports and family allowed. I will say that when you were competing, we were in Colorado on vacation in Crested Butte, and we had just come off of camping into our condo, and the TV had like 3 remotes and 500 channels, and we had 8 people. We were all on the different TVs, like, where's Maddie's race? Where's the, like, you'd see all the, and we were all looking for it. And my daughter Jaden's like, I found it. And we all came running over and we were cheering for you. And so from our end, it was just so thrilling and exciting. I'm imagining from your end, there was a roller coaster of emotions getting to physically the Olympics and then being in the Olympic Village. Anything you want to share with us about what it was like behind the scenes being at the Olympics?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like all of the people who were veterans of the Olympics were like, oh, it's not normally like this. It's not normally like this. And we're just kind of like, this is unprecedented. But it was so unreal. I feel like during the pandemic, it was kind of the attitude like, this might never happen. Like, I could be training for nothing. So it was just, it almost felt,
Talk about endurance, right?
Yeah. We weren't really allowed to like leave the village. So the village was like on this peninsula, and you had like these cool buildings, and they had all of the buildings with the different like countries and stuff on it, and you're walking around and it almost was like, are we like on a movie set? Like everything feels super new. But it was really cool to be there and kind of have this like collective experience with everyone. Like it was all postponed. And especially like the rowers, I feel like I've had that feeling at like world championships. And it's like all these crazy people who row, like what a weird sport to do. And it's like pretty niche. So it's cool to have that experience, but like times 100 in like the village. And we were talking to some of the skateboarders, which is a new Olympic sport. And I feel like I was like, wow, you guys are so cool. Like, and it was really neat to have those experiences with other athletes and kind of have that like mutual admiration and see. Unfortunately, we didn't get to like go and watch any other competitions. And we were kind of like locked down. So I feel like I don't have like, we were out in Tokyo and we met Yao Ming and whatever kind of stories, but it was just amazing to like see that collective experience and like be with people from around the world. And appreciate like all the work we've done. The course was amazing. Volunteers were so nice and so happy all the time. The volunteers were amazing. Everything was like very efficient. Food was amazing. I loved the dining hall. It was cool to get all of the team gear and like walk around in your USA outfits, and everyone was like in like costumes of their country almost, because it was just like some of the stuff was just so over the top, but it was amazing to be a part of it and to kind of feel like finally we've made it.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds amazing. And so we have a Thoughtfully Fit community online in our Facebook for people who want more. I'm wondering, would you be willing to share some pictures of your experience in your travels in that community so that we can see some of the things that you experienced?
Yeah, definitely. And we
Oh,
also we did a pre-camp in Hawaii because that was like as close as we could get to Japan, like being in the United States and kind of adapting to the time zone because we were only allowed
that
in
doesn't suck.
yeah. Yeah. So that was really, really cool. And it was cool to have because we were on this canal in Honolulu, which is like kind of in the middle of town. So you had like people on runs and stuff, like yelling at like go USA, like out of cars. So it was cool to have that experience of like having spectators and like feeling, and especially like of course my local community in Wisconsin was super like it was just awesome to see the support from like local businesses and just neighbors and people I've known my whole life. So it was just super awesome to feel like that kind of support before we went to Tokyo and like empty stadiums and ghost town kind of feeling. So
Yeah, and not only your local support up in the Northeast here in Madison, you were a Badger. There was so many articles about all the Badgers and those going to the Olympics. So it was just fun to be able to cheer you on and the others who were representing not only our country but our state of Wisconsin as well.
Oh, totally. I found like Rose Laville who played soccer for the national team. Like I saw her in the airport and I was like, hey, like we went to Wisconsin together, and she was super friendly. And I like met Alicia Monson, who's a track girl. So it was just really cool because I've been like following all of them for so long in their respective sports, and to like be like, hey, we're the same, we finally made it. It was super fun to like have those interactions, especially with like local people who've had like similar experiences at Wisconsin and in Wisconsin. So it was really awesome to feel a part of that community.
That is so awesome. And we'd love if we can also share links to, I think you've got some Instagram, you've got places that if we want to follow you and your journey over the next 3 years, is it okay if we post those links as well in that Encore community?
Oh, totally. I feel like I'm not as active on social media. Like I feel like I'm like, oh, I could be an influencer, but I'm trying to be more mellow and like live in the moment and stuff. So I've got stuff up there, but I'm definitely not on like influencer levels of engagement. But
oh my God. I mean, you're a role model in that way, that you're not sort of getting caught up because it can be never ending, that you're talking about work-life balance and training and focusing on the things that matter most to you.
mm-hmm.
That's
and I feel like too, like the likes and the views, like I feel like I've gotten kind of caught up in that, and then Instagram like took away the likes for a while, and I was like, oh, this is nice. Like I don't even know how many likes I got. That's awesome. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, you are fantastic. Congratulations for achieving a dream, going to the Olympics, and thank you for joining us here today on Thoughtfully Fit Thursday to share how you had the endurance and the mental endurance to overcome all of those obstacles that you did. You are so inspiring, Maddie.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and I feel like you had very thoughtful things, and I have wisdom I want to share. So I'm so happy to have someone want to know what I have to say.
We love hearing what you have to say. Thank you so much. And everybody who's out there, post in the comments what it is you're working towards, what obstacles you have, and how Maddie's message inspired you to overcome them. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.